Now, if you look up front here today, you see things look a little different as far as where we are with music. We have a table here full of bells, and we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Lonnie Dorgan.
Come on, guys, this is my cue.
This is your cue. You can read about him in the bulletin there, and I don't know, is everything in the bulletin correct?
Everything's there, it's just not total.
Just not totally, you mean it could be more?
Yeah, how about 6 pieces, not just 2?
Well, tell us a little bit about your role as a chemistry and geology professor.
Well, that's pretty much the same sort of thing as any teacher. I have to be the chair of the department, so I get to, I guess, tell people what to do. They tell me what to do too. But at any rate, it's at the college. One of the nice things, or one of the interesting things that I find rather interesting, my area is really biochemistry, and so I teach a class that is for the health-related students that covers biochemistry, and at the very end of it, I share a bias that I have, and I tell them, okay, one of the things that we've learned is that organic reactions happen very slowly. Well, I also tell them early on in the semester that there are a whole pile of organic molecules, intelligent, I hope, and that if it weren't for something called hydrogen bonding, they would be an intelligent puddle on the floor. But at any rate, when I point out that all of these different reactions that we've been talking about are enzyme controlled, we talk about how enzymes are put together, I say this is not something that I think that I can accept happening spontaneously. There had to have been some sort of a mechanism behind it. I purposely, because of the location, stay out of trying to say, this is, God created it. I just simply point out that life cannot have happened spontaneously. I leave it at that and let them, draw their own conclusions.
I'm really glad I'm more than just a puddle on the floor.
I'm glad you are too, because somehow or another, I wouldn't want to have to,
It'll be mucked up. Well, looking over here to the side, there's a table that looks like we need about 4 or 5 people to play all these bells.
Oh, you say 1, 2, 3, 4. We kind of have to have that many people.
Yeah.
If you're only playing 1 bell.
And you're going to play all those?
I will touch all of them at least once.
Yeah. Wow. It's going to be fun to watch. So tell us a little bit about the bells.
Well,
what do we, just give us a quick crash course.
Let me go back into history a little bit.
Quick crash course.
Back, many years ago, many years ago, over in England particularly, they had the tower bells, and tower bells used to be used to call people's attention because that was the only good way they had to communicate. Because these bells in the towers could be heard for long distances. So they had, codes and whatnot for different kinds of issues, such as, well, there's an invading army, a little ways away, so they bring it so many times and whatnot. Well, somebody got the idea, well, we could do some interesting kinds of things with it. We could ring them in different orders and come up with all sorts of complicated ways. They call it change ringing. The probably the easiest one that most of you probably heard is da 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 da. You've heard that sort of thing before. That is one very short version of change ringing. Well, this takes practice. And if you can imagine what it sounded like after a while when people listened to them practicing and practicing. All right, guys, that's enough. Take it into the bar. So they made small bells that they could practice in the bar, roughly this size, except they weren't quite constructed in quite the same way. Well, you can imagine what the bar patrons thought of that after a while. Guys, that's just too much. We don't want to hear it anymore. So they created the dumbbell. That is a bell without the clapper inside that they could practice, and you didn't hear anything. Now, about 100 years ago, somebody got the idea, well, shoot, these things are tuned. We could tune them why don't we play songs with them? And they developed the ability to play songs with it. Since about 1950, it's really grown quite extensively with new techniques. I don't know if we want to take the time to show some techniques or not, but we can. Okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. You didn't say no. Okay. One of the, this is the normal ringing stroke that we have, okay? But you can do this with the bell. Or you can do this. Hear the difference? It's called a tower swing. Or you can do... Now, those were some of the early things that were developed. Somebody came along and said, well, we can do this with it. Or we can do this. You kind of get, this needs to be adjusted, okay? And then somebody else came along, by the way, her name happened to be Shelley. Says, well, if I can play one bell, I can play two bells. So there was all sorts of other kinds of things. Now, more recently, we've developed something called the singing bell, where we take a dowel and go around the outside. I don't have a good one to do that with, so I can't demonstrate it for you, but the first time that I was ever to a festival, we had around 600 ringers, all on the floor at the same time. And the very last chord, the director said, I want you to give it a very strong thing, and I want you to hold it up. Jerry, play a C major chord. That's what it sounded like, except that it had the long, the entire range of the thing. It was just, it just died slowly away. It sounded like an organ. It was kind of cool.
Maybe it's on the stop line.
Well, there's ways to do that.
I think he's feeling some competition of bells here.
Well, I can ring them. I'll ring his bell.
Okay. Well, if you would see everything under all those cases, it probably took him a couple hours to move in here this morning with all of
It
it.
took me about, what was it, 10 minutes, Jerry? I think I snuck in without you even noticing. What about you guys? Was it about 10 minutes? It took about 10 minutes to settle that up.
Well,
It's called practice.
we're really glad that you were able to bring all of this with you today, and that you will be sharing with us. Tell us about the piece that you will be playing for our anthem.
Well, actually, Jerry's the better one to tell about it because he knows the origin of it a lot better than I do. Bill West was the chair of the music department at Walla Walla College when Jerry and I were students there. And I think he did this at Hillary, did he not? This is while it was Walla. Okay. But he arranged, he's known for some very interesting chords and chord progressions and whatnot. When he was at Kettering, he was the music director there for a while. And my wife had become quite intrigued with his day by day. Well, when he showed up to play at Jerry's invitation a few years ago, I asked him about the possibility of arranging this for organ with bells, and he was very much in favor of that sort of thing. And so first of all, with Marshall's help, and then finally with Jerry's help, we ended up arranging this thing. It'll be published this summer. It was supposed to be published last summer, but they didn't get around to it. So I sent them around to it. But at any rate, it'll be published this summer. I'm not sure exactly what form it is, but I've sent them several different possibilities, including the organ arrangement for bells and keyboard, and then also a simplified version that only uses 2 octaves of bells instead of the 3 octaves that I got here.
Well, we want to thank you for being able to share this with us today, and for being here, and also being able to sing in the choir with us. I know you've been here a few times to sing in the choir, but sharing the bells with us today.
Be a little bit.
We are certainly looking forward to being in them today. Thank you, Lonnie.